Hello, welcome back to Just for Today. I'm Jamal Normie,
Hey, I'm Miranda, the addict.
and today we're going to talk about getting educated. Also, you should vote. Before we get into that, we're going to talk about, well, we have a scripture.
Today's scripture comes from Proverbs 9:9. Teach the wise, and they will become wiser. Inform the righteous, and their learning will increase.
All right, good scripture. But it's true though, because you can't stop learning. Like you can't think that you know everything. Speaking of which, so I voted this year. This is my first time voting.
Crazy.
First time voting.
And how old are you?
I'm old enough, but the thing is, because I never.
You weren't aware. You weren't aware.
I was just aware. It just seemed like my vote didn't matter. Like it doesn't count. Which I mean,
A lot of people think that.
I know. Which I mean, there are still so many issues with society in general. But I didn't know until this year that those people that go around and knock and ask you all those questions and blah blah blah, that they inform how many delegates. What is that called?
The delegates.
No, not the delegates. The census.
Yeah.
That the census, by the information that you're giving, gives information to how many delegates there are, which state says how many votes that a state has, and so on and so forth.
I need to know how many people are in the area.
Yeah, but I thought you register at the DMV and all this stuff. I thought that they just knew, going by the information that's registered. But yeah, there's so many little pieces to things that can hinder us, and we think that we know everything. I mean, there's still so many issues, though.
Yeah, and that's what's frustrating is a lot of people think the way you think. Like, oh, my vote doesn't count, but it does. And that's the thing, what's so frustrating is by us not doing our part, by not voting or not doing anything for change, we're going to be stuck in the same situation.
Yeah.
So it's
it's frustrating.
very.
But at the same time, so even if the vote for a president doesn't matter, let's say that doesn't ultimately matter or whatever because of X, Y, and Z, whatever, there's still so many other things on there that does matter that you should be voting for.
You don't vote just every 4 years, it's every 2 years. Like those questions in your city that you have to vote for. Your vote matters, your voice matters.
Yeah. And I never looked into that. This is the first time that I looked into I'm like, oh, okay, and this and this and this. But I've never really been into politics or anything else, and I'm still not in politics.
I know, and it is because it's a scary, frustrating, overwhelming. I know just a little bit, but you have to know just enough. You have to, I don't know if it's me being a parent. You're more aware of how these little things matter now. With education and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah. But even besides that, as an adult, as a kid, you don't really think about it. When you're 18, 19, 20, you don't really think about these sort of things. But all this stuff really matters, who's the governor of your state, what things can and can't be. What is the women one that was on there?
a few years ago, the tax for women products.
For women products and stuff like that, which you guys have to use all the time. Stuff like that. It's just... I just was specifically sticking on the president and thinking that what I did didn't matter. But also, in the whole thing, you have to research things, though. It's not simply just voting, going there, and you have to research each one of those, the questions candidates that are on there, but also the other questions that are specific to your city, state, and all that kind of thing.
And so you don't just go off of what ad you see or whatever's given to you. Okay, you're aware of the choices, but it's up to you to, be informed and do your own research. You can't depend on anyone. You have to have multiple resources, go to multiple resources to find out the best choice for you and your family.
Yeah, but our system's really broken.
Oh my god.
It's crazy broke. It's crazy how broke. I mean, I'm not saying don't vote. You should vote.
It's so overwhelming.
And money just it leads everything.
But that's the thing, the more we, let that scare us or people, the more we're going to be, herded into the same direction that we've been herded into.
But then how can we fix things though? Like,
by voting.
but yeah, okay, I'm not saying not to vote. I agree with voting, but the way that everything is set up, there's no votes to fix the way the things are done.
Eventually, like, and everything is so slow. So because everything happens in like 4 years, 2 years, you know, so it's like you take a step forward, then a couple steps back, and because there's the two parties. But eventually, because of us younger people are being more informed and educated, like even, you know, like my daughter Ariana, like she's more aware of what about the president, you know, the races and all this and that than I was at her age. But basically, us younger people being more informed and actually like voting, getting more votes out there, eventually will like kick off all these, like, no offense, but like the old school people who are like, and the presidents are like 78 years old, like, come on, like, no offense, but like, you're older. It's like, yeah, you've seen a lot and you've experienced a lot, but like the younger generation, even in your, you know, President Obama, like he was the youngest president, but it's like he was more in tune with what is happening now and relatable to what's going on. So anyways, basically voting out and eventually the goal is to put into position those that would make better choices for us and not keep the same mentality people in those positions. But it takes time. Like, you know, a vote happens every 2 years and every 4 years, and
yeah. But even still though, it's not one for one. Like the way that the system is set up, I know, I mean, after researching things and looking into things, some of it makes sense, or maybe it made sense for a time period, but things have changed.
Yeah,
you know, because you have people even thinking about it just barely, like, so you have a state and you have people that are in charge of the state, and then they're kind of delegating what the state kind of does. So if they're red, a team blue, if you have a lot of people in that state, then, you know, then that state has more power, you know, can affect the voting process and everything else. But then at the same time, that's not a good enough excuse, because we should be able to educate ourselves on it and not necessarily listen just because our governor says, just because whatever leadership says, to get educated ourselves in general. But then it's about money. Like, it costs so much money to run though. So we could maybe, you know, as part of the situation that we've been in, is because I feel like last time, this time, you know, it's like we don't really have good options. It's just like, you know, and the people that have so much money are the ones that are able to run. Like, there needs to be a platform, and it needs to be just a...
I think we're getting there. We're getting there. There's some people that are, like, the last couple years, there's been big progress with, like, women's movement and, you know, the younger generation getting into position. So, like, they're, like, the one lady, I can't think of her name, the one we're watching last night, she's one of those where she's, you know, like a waitress from somewhere or whatever. So she's barely getting in there, and it's like, so if more people jump on that bandwagon, eventually, like, they'll make it higher up. It's just...
But will they though? Or will it always be the person with the most money that you're able to see their face everywhere?
As long as people like us, people vote, you know, and inform and educate ourselves, I have hope.
I have hope.
I think eventually I think it's not gonna happen overnight,
obviously.
But like, you know, there has to be change. I do believe in the next couple decades there will be like big change, because, you know, you know, our generation and the generations below us, you know, our kids and our kids' kids, like, you know, they're not going to be going off of 1776, you know.
Yeah, they're already not going off of anything. They just sit at home all day and they don't.
That's what we need. I know.
No, it's not. And I can kind of get it why. So not that whether you're pro-Trump or against Trump. So you got a bunch of people like me that didn't vote because we were just like, there's no way he's going to be the president, you know. But then there's also people that truly, they're like, well, you know what, we need some sort of change. So then maybe we can run this like a business. Like, I could see that too. Then there's all the other whatevers, but I could see how he ended up in this predicament. But then now it's like there's no good option. It's
Right
like him
now
or
there's
the old.
not, but that doesn't mean.
But I'm not saying no vote. I'm still saying vote. I'm just saying that we're messing up. Like America, we're messing up as a whole. Like there has to be some change. But there's not a way to vote for those things that change. Like that's what I'm saying. I don't know how we
That's why
get
we
it
have
to
to
change.
put those people in office. Those people have to become representatives. So
Yeah.
eventually, it's a chain.
Yeah. I need to research more on it too.
Yeah.
But there should be a platform where everyone can tune it, like on a public broadcasting channel or whatever. It doesn't cost any money. It's just this is specific for government, blah blah blah, knowledge type of things. I don't know if there is something like that. Maybe there is.
Okay, well, I just popped in my head. What about, because anybody can run for presidency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain guidelines or whatever. But it's scary at the same time. For example, Kanye West. He was legitimately on the ballot, like, and you know, that's I don't know where my point is, but it just popped in my head. Just like just because anybody can run doesn't mean you want anybody to run.
Doesn't mean they should.
And because we're so eager to have that change, we're willing to like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna vote because I don't want him and I don't want him, so let's try him. Like that could be
The problem
dangerous.
too. But that's the situation. Like we don't. And isn't there 3 parties though? There's the independent.
They're always like a faction.
Yeah, why is that? Because they don't have a lot of money.
Not necessarily. Just because I don't know.
Politics and geography have never been my biggest subject in history, so this is something I'm just getting into. But now it's got me really curious. But I think it probably is money. But anybody should be able to run though. So if Kanye wants to run, he wants to run. But the thing is, the people should be able to vote for that person and be a one person vote to make this happen, and to have the ability to be educated on what that person's about. You know, it shouldn't be about money, how many times you can pay for an ad to pop up on TV, on YouTube and all this stuff. It should be about, there should be a platform. This is where it is. You can find this information. You shouldn't be able to pay somebody, like, okay, so you send out flyers in the mail and things like that, but you shouldn't be able to pay to be on commercials and stuff. Like that's kind of, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it's because it's old school, like mailers and TV commercials. Because how else, like if you're running, how would you want to reach out to your people? But
that's what I'm saying. There should be a platform where all of the people that are running, all the president, blah blah blah. This is where you access that information. This is all the information. You can read through it, look at the videos, blah blah blah, and it'd be that way.
I think there is though.
But it should be pretty much based directly through that, though. You know what I mean?
Not
That this,
like scattered and stuff.
yeah, and based on what you're doing, you're gonna see this because this person has enough money to put this thing there. You know, so if I'm on YouTube, you know, Trump has X amount of money and he put it all onto YouTube to be able to pop up here. So now this is all I'm seeing. So then this is what I'm going to vote on. Like it should be this is where it is. It shouldn't cost as much money as it costs. Maybe we were missing out on good people because they don't have the money to do that. And, you know, it's just our system is so messed up. Like we were just watching this thing the other day, whatever day it was. And 2018, like this, people in Florida were not up to 2018, like they were not able to vote, like ex-cons and
again, it's like it's politics.
It's like it's crazy to me. Like who are you to say that someone can't vote? Like if you have an ID or a citizen and blah blah blah, you should be able to vote.
Again, it's all about controlling those votes and those numbers to keep those people in office. And that's what's wrong. That's what the issue is keeping those same people with the same mentality in office and limiting the votes and controlling the votes. You know, all of that has a play. It doesn't matter how small it is. Each vote counts. And so if they can, you know, dictate one vote or, you know, remove a vote in any way that they can, it's all control of the power. You know? Like my coworker, she was telling me the other day about how last time she went to vote, she's like, she's like, you're not registered to vote. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was under the impression, okay, I've never had to re-register to vote. I registered one time here in Nevada, and everything comes to me by mail, and I go down and I vote every time, every election. So she said, oh, the same thing for me. I was registered, but this one time, and she's of different ethnicity, you know, so I was thinking that way. I'm like, wow, did they really do that to her? Because all they told her was like, oh, well, you're not in our system and you have to wait, or you're not registered, so you have to go stand over there. And they just, you know, put her to the side, so she wasn't able to vote. And so just little small things like that, that one vote made a difference.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on. And even what you're talking about with Florida, this one representative was from 2007 to like 2011, he reversed, you know, that ex-convicts, they can vote. And then this other representative became office and he reversed that to where, okay, if you are an ex-convict, you have to come up to session and explain why you want, you know, to be able to vote or your rights back. And what did they say? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, everyone that came to state their case was denied. And it's just, and it's mind-boggling to me. I'm like, it's 2020. And we're over here still, it's just ignorance.
Yeah.
It's just ignorance, like yeah. And then another guy was saying how his wife was running for a position and in Florida, I believe, and he couldn't vote for his wife because that was his wife. So all these little things, it may not be here in Nevada because each state, it comes up with their own rules and guidelines.
But
so
it shouldn't be that
we're
way.
not aware of that because it's so easy to register to vote. You can register to vote the day of election. Like, you know, we're that free. But you can go down south, you know, and it's like they're still living. It's just sad, and it breaks my heart that, like, you know, there's just so many restrictions and just, it was just ugly. And it's just ugly. And that's what the problem is, keeping those same people in office that want to keep, you know, degrading people and keep, you know, restricting.
Yeah, and it's like, and when I see stuff like this, so again, we as a people, as Americans, we need to be more educated about everything that's going around, not just specifically in Nevada, you know, look into things, what's going on everywhere, because it's all affected, right? We're all connected. Everything that we do, what they're doing, it all matters. It really does, and it's just crazy to think that I never even thought about this sort of thing because I just thought it didn't matter. I mean, it matters, but. And
is that because, and I'm relating it because how, like, with Ariana, there, you know, like I remember when the last election where they were doing like mock votes in class or whatever, and one friend of mine was like so offended. Like, that shit, why is my kid being informed, you know, the whole Trump and Hillary Clinton and this and that. Like, she was offended that her kid was being informed about the presidency. And I'm
why didn't she inform her?
That's what I'm saying, exactly, you know, exactly. Like, it's up to us to, exactly. Like, my parents never, I don't remember being informed, and I don't even know what made me go vote when I was 18, but I remember as soon as I turned 18, I started to vote. But it's up to us to educate the next generations below us. So, but it's crazy that you're still gonna get those people who it's like a taboo, you know, because they look at it maybe negative, you know, just because of how ugly it is. Like, when we would see the ads, I don't know, before when I was little, it might have started when I was little, but the whole attacking, you know, the whole, like, you're acting like kindergartners, like, you know, the whole attacking, like, that's not appropriate. I understand that should not be exposed to kids, but it is.
But again, though, everyone always feels like they have to fall on a side. It's not about, like, I can vote Republican one day and then Democratic the next. Like, who is saying what I need to, what I want or need to hear? That's like, America, we're always trying to fight each other over everything.
It goes back to, like, you know, the thing that we were watching last night. It's from the olden times, from, you know, it's just being brought, and but sad. That's crazy. You know, and that's why there is change on the horizon. Like, there is, like, things are being shaken up, you know, and it's just, we're in this weird era of, like, the younger generation is recognizing that and trying to shake things up, and eventually, you know, things will change.
In my mind, it's kind of like, it won't, as long, because the people with money are going to continue to have money, and in order for it to change, things will have to be broken down. Like,
but we have to stop thinking like that. We have to be proactive, and we have to, like,
no, I'm not saying not be proactive, but I'm just saying, like, so COVID, for instance, things are changing with COVID, like, things are shutting down, like, maybe this is in that whole spell, like with God having COVID, things are stopping, you know, like things almost have to, sometimes you gotta knock the house over and just make to get the foundation correctly to then build upon it. Like I feel like this is tied to it. Maybe there's a bigger design going on.
I mean, it comes down to like the judges and you know things like that. Like if you're not in the system, if you're not exposed to the courts and you know everything else and education, like you're not aware of it. Like who is it good? Do you still want this judge in? And you know, and the sheriff and all kinds of stuff. Like it's all important.
And the thing is, you think that it doesn't mean anything until you get into a situation and you're like, who's this person? And da 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 da. Well, they got voted in. And then you're gonna be sitting around thinking, you know, how did this person get to say to do this to me, or when did this become a rule? Well, as part of voting, you know, there's so many things, you know, did police officers and what you get taxed for and all this sort of thing.
Taxes, that's another thing.
But yeah, it all matters. Every vote matters, so get out there and vote. By the time this is posting, when's the last day to vote? Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow? No, like you can't vote today. Like you have to vote tomorrow.
You have to vote tomorrow?
November 3rd.
So there's like an early voting and then it cut off and then it...
30th, yeah.
Educated. You gotta get educated. But... Yeah,
Speaking of educated, so we're preparing for today's video, and there's like a few things that came up I thought was funny, like two different things. And he was like, one of them, okay, we were driving in the car, and there was a bicyclist driving, you know, on the road, and he's like yelling at the bicyclist.
Yelling at the bicyclist.
He's like, why are you in the middle of the road?
I didn't say this to him.
Get on the side. I know,
it was in the
car. He's like, get on the sidewalk. And I tell him, you're not supposed to, like, bikes aren't supposed to be on the sidewalk. Like, they have to be on the street. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, since when? I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, it's unsafe for bikes to be on, you know. And so he's like, where is this? Show me the proof. And I, throughout the years, you know, I absorb a lot of information. I can't tell you, you know, oh, this is here, go to this website and go here. But I'm informed. So there's a lot of, and I told him, like, you're just outdated. Like, I think that rule happened like 15 years ago. Like, things change, rules change, guidelines change, and you have to keep, and that's why it's important to keep up with it. So he's like, I don't know where, you go, show me the proof. So, you know, you go to Google and there's like a website there for like bikerswhatever.com. And it, yes, and it clearly states. It did
clearly, whatever you read, I went back and read, and it doesn't say that. And then, okay, let's just think about this logically. Why would it be unsafe to be on the sidewalk?
Because people are on there, and then you have the light poles and having to go around, and that's why now they're making the roads biker lanes. So right now, like, that's whether there's a biker
on the road
lane
where there's no biker lane,
a biker lane or not, like, that is where the bikers are supposed to be. That road was made before the rule changed. So no, they haven't paved an extra bike lane, but everything new is there's a bike lane because that's the rule. Like, that's the safety measure.
That makes sense when there's a bike lane because that specifically states that they're supposed to be here. This guy was doing this in the road.
In the bike lane, and if there's no specific line, you have to imagine that there's a line right there and you ride your bike right there.
Okay, so I'm talking about laws. I'm not talking about what people feel that they should be riding. I'm talking about specific laws. Many moments later.
You have to know the resources that you're going to. I remember, like, and I learned that because like a decade ago, I believed something. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like spreading this information. Come to find out, it was like from theonion.com. And if you know what that is.
I don't know what that is. What is it?
Totally like fake news. It's like they make fun of like storylines and stuff and make it fake or whatever. And from that point on, I knew, like, you have to be informed of where you're getting your information from. You don't want to just get it off of like whoever. Even like the news sources, like sometimes their sources aren't on spot, you know?
Go vote. But
your vote matters.
Your vote matters.
Absolutely. Like, go vote.
But what have you experienced? Like, what are some of the things that you're thinking about everything? What do you know? Why haven't you voted?
Where are your resources? Where do you go to inform yourself?
Yeah, because what are your ideas on things? Leave us a comment below and let us know so we can have a discussion about it and try to figure things out, because I'm really curious about this now. Now that I'm in it, I'm really curious.
You're welcome.
Not because of you. Don't just vote, but do your research on things. Figure things out. Make a decision for yourself. Don't rely on somebody else. Don't rely on what you're seeing on TV. Don't rely on that ad. Don't rely on what so-and-so told you. You have to make the decision for yourself. And we need a better platform. And it's dumb. Like, you shouldn't have to, why do we have to register to vote? You should be able to have your ID, bring it in,
scan it, and good to go.
Scan it, yeah. Like, once you're in the DMV, you have ID from the DMV with the star and all this stuff, which what I thought, that should matter besides just getting on a plane. You should be able to go in and just do that. You shouldn't have to register. Like, why do we register?
I don't know. Let me do my research. Let me Google. Let me Google.
Well, that's all we have for today. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about some of this stuff, or what ideas you have, where you're coming from. Let's have a conversation about it. We can all grow from it. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things, but most importantly, remember to keep coming back.
Stay clean.
Bye.
And they will become wiser. Inform the righteous, and their learning will increase. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna be able to remember all this stuff. I can't remember anything.
We can't remember anything.
Wiser. Inform. Can I just leave it like that? I can just do half of it.
No, because it's a verse. You can't say half of a verse. And their learning will increase.
Okay. Proverbs 9:9. And their learning will increase.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much on a bet you're not going to get it when it's time?
Like, it's not in here.
You ready?
No. All right.
Ready? 2. Get out of your nose. Are you ready or not?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. Wise, and they will become wiser. The righteous, and their...
Speaking of which, I didn't know that. What are they called?
Sorry, time out.
Is my stickers? I'm like,
I checked it, but it wasn't
checked it.
stuff. So
yeah. But are you done? You good? Can we finish? Oh, they got voted in.
you guys scared?
You alright? God. Sit. What are you doing? Go sit down. Go sit down.
Raz, go sit down. Sit.
Go sit down.
Raz, lay down.
Shut up. What was I saying? Are you comfy? Are you curious?
You're welcome.
Not because of you. Had nothing to do with you, boo. Nothing to do with you. You hear anything else?
No.